All right, welcome back, everyone. We are getting into the resolution of Romeo and Juliet, and I mean Act 5. Okay, so it's the first scene, and in the previous scene that we read, which was the last scene of Act 4, you know that Juliet's family has discovered her presumably dead body. Friar Lawrence knows full well that she is not actually dead, and he urges the Capulet family to quickly get her body buried. And obviously, we all know that's because his plan is for Romeo to receive word from him about his plan, and then when Juliet wakes up from the sleeping potion, Romeo will be there, and the two of them can run away and live together until he has time to either blazon their marriage or, um, you know, until it would be understood in the future. Okay, so in this scene, Romeo is still in Mantua as he's been banished. Okay, so at the start of the scene, Romeo enters, he is alone, and so he's speaking these words aloud to himself. If I may trust the flattering truth of sleep, my dreams presage some joyful news at hand. My bosom's Lord sits lightly in its throne, and all day an unaccustomed spirit lifts me above the ground with cheerful thoughts. I dreamt my lady came and found me dead (strange dream that gives a dead man leave to think), and breathed such life with kisses in my lips that I revived and was an emperor. Ah me! How sweet is love itself possessed, but when but love's shadows are so rich in joy. So the scene starts out with Romeo, who's in a very light-hearted, happy, joyful mood because he's had a dream where he has perhaps been dead, and Juliet comes to wake him up. All right. So I love this line too. My bosom's Lord sits lightly in his throne. So what is the Lord of your chest and your emotions essentially, right? It's your heart. So this is a metaphor. My bosom's Lord is a metaphor for his heart, right? Sits lightly in his throne. He's in a good mood, okay? And he starts off by talking about this lovely dream that he's had where Juliet kisses him and revives him, and he becomes this emperor. Now, enter Romeo's man, Balthazar, and he is in riding boots, which means that he has ridden a horse, okay, to come deliver this news from Verona. And Romeo sees him approaching and says, News from Verona! How now, Balthazar? Dost thou not bring me letters from the friar? How doth my lady? Is my father well? How doth my Juliet? That I ask again, for nothing can be ill if she be well. Balthazar responds, Then she is well and nothing can be ill. Her body sleeps in Capel's monument, and her immortal part with angels live. I saw her laid low in her kindred's vault, and presently took post to tell it to you. Oh, pardon me for bringing these ill news, since you did leave it for my office, sir. Is it even so? Then I defy you, stars. Thou knowest my lodging. Get me ink and paper, and hire post horses. I will hence tonight. Similarly to Romeo's bad luck in Act 3, Scene 1, after he kills Tybalt, he calls out, I am Fortune's fool, right? In other words, he is blaming fate for his misfortune. Here, he screams out and exclaims, Then I defy you, stars. Okay, Romeo is going to deny fate. He is going to act in a way that's he thinks is actually against his fate, but little does he know it's actually carrying out his fate, right? Balthazar responds, I do beseech you, sir, have patience. Your looks are pale and wild and do import some misadventure. So this is indirect characterization. Okay, Balthazar is telling us that Romeo looks mad, and obviously he just discovered that the love of his life, his wife, his new wife of not even 24 hours has been laid in her family's, um, burial ground. And so he's upset, okay? And you can see it on his face. Romeo says, Tush, thou art deceived. Leave me, and do the thing I bid thee do. Hast thou no letters to me from the friar? No, my good lord. No matter. Get thee gone, and hire those horses. I'll be with thee straight. Okay, you got to think about what you would do in this particular situation. Your friend has just learned that his newlywed wife is dead, okay, and he is not looking so well, and he is now instructed to leave. I think it's probably dangerous. Like Balthazar maybe should not leave Romeo at this particular time since he is experiencing trauma. But he does. He leaves, right? Balthazar exits, and Romeo is again speaking his inner thoughts here to himself. So this is a soliloquy, and he says, "Well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight. Let's see for means. O mischief, thou art swift to enter in the thoughts of a desperate man. I do remember an apothecary." So before I finish this sentence, okay, let me just quickly define apothecary for you. An apothecary would be like a pharmacist, but in the Middle Ages. Okay, so he here says, I do remember an apothecary, and hereabouts he dwells, which late I noted in tattered weeds with overwhelming brows, cullings of simples. Meagre were his looks. Sharp misery had worn him to the bones, and in his needy shop a tortoise hung, an alligator stuffed, and other skins of ill-shaped fishes, and about his shelves a beggarly account of empty boxes, green earthen pots, bladders, and musty seeds, remnants of pack thread, and old cakes of roses were thinly scattered to make up a show. Noting his penury to myself, I said, penury here is poverty, right? So he's noting his poverty. So this is an apothecary who is struggling in his business. And so therefore, I think Romeo is taking this as a note, okay? Noting this poverty to myself, I said, and if a man did need a poison now, whose sale is present death in Mantua? Here lives a caitiff wretch would sell it to him. Oh, this same thought did but forerun my need, and this same needy man must sell it to me, as I remember this should be the house. Being holiday, the beggar's shop is shut. What, ho, apothecary! So he calls out for the apothecary despite the fact that it seems empty and closed, and the apothecary now enters on the stage. Who calls so loud? Come hither, man, I see that thou art poor. Now he's offering him money. Remember, Romeo noted that he was poor, and so he's going to try to bribe him. Hold, there is 40 ducats. Let me have a dram of poison, such soon speeding gear as will disperse itself through all the veins, that the life-weary taker may fall dead, and that the trunk may be discharged of breath as violently as hasty powder fired doth hurry from the fatal cannon's womb. Apothecary. Such mortal drugs I have, but Mantua's law is death to any he that utters them. So Romeo is trying to get this poison that would kill him speedily, and the apothecary says, Sure, I have those, but the law forbids me to hand it over to you. Okay? Now Romeo is going to try to persuade him, right? Romeo says, Art thou so bare and full of wretchedness, and fearest to die? Famine is in thy cheeks, need and oppression starveth in thine eyes, contempt and beggary hangs upon thy back. The world is not thy friend, nor the world's law. The world affords no law to make thee rich. Then be not poor, but break it, and take this. So he's pretty persuasive here. He says, Hey, listen, look at how you're living. Is the law good to you? He's kind of like, screw the law, right? It's more important that you get your hands on this money, which should help you. And now the apothecary easily is persuaded. My poverty, but not by will, consents. So he accepts the money from Romeo in exchange for the poison because he is poor. Romeo says, I pay thy poverty and not thy will, giving him the poison. Put this in any liquid thing you will and drink it off, and if you had the strength of 20 men, it would dispatch you straight. Romeo, handing him over the money, there is thy gold worse poison to men's souls, doing more murder in this loathsome world than these poor compounds that thou mayest not sell. I sell thee poison, thou hast sold me none. Farewell, buy food and get thyself in flesh. I love this line. He says, there is thy poison, worse poison to men's souls, right? So it's kind of an ironic line where Romeo says that in a play that's very much about socioeconomic status, I think that this is important. Um, the gold here, he is saying, is more poison than the poison that he is actually selling to him. Come, cordial, and not poison, go with me to Juliet's grave, for there I must use thee. So he takes a hold of this poison and he heads to Juliet's family's monument.